Hi, this is Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Spoilers for Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power in this, and we're going to talk about reaching a point of narrative power in your Dungeons and Dragons campaign. All right, so you're a dungeon master, and you're creating a world that your player characters live in, and that world has lore. And you're trying to weave together a specific slice through your lore where your player characters are going to change literally the fate of the world that they inhabit. Like, they are a hinge, and power hinges on them, right? Excuse me. And you want to make sure that they feel like they are absolutely integral to the success or failure of the factions that surround them, right? They are kingmakers, if not kings and queens, So basically, the fate of these worlds really do rest on the shoulders of your player characters. And if it doesn't, you're playing wrong. We're telling stories of epic importance, and Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power is doing this. And so I'm a little behind. I'm on episode 5. And I just reached a point of narrative power in this story. So this story has a lot of problems. The biggest problem, it's not really a problem with Lord of the Rings, because House of the Dragon has the same problem, and that is it's a prequel. Prequels generally suck. They're always made by cowards. No one should ever spend 1 minute making a prequel. They always suck compared to a sequel, right? Like, people want to know what happens next. Nobody wants to know what happens before, because they're trapped, stupid, useless stories, and it upsets me. It upsets me when people are like, why don't we clutch to cowardice rather than clutch to courage, right? And every time you see a prequel story, it is a bunch of cowards who are making it, right? Now, here's the thing. It's Tolkien's work, right? Tolkien forgives a lot, right? Like, so does George R.R. Martin, right? That's why we put up with this nonsense, and why we would take 1 minute to watch it, right? Because they've earned it in other ways, right? But generally, that's a problem, right? So here's the part that really blew me away in episode 5 of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, and which was a real moment of narrative power. And that was Elrond, at the request of his elf king, telling the story of the tree, right? The tree that's in the symbol of the it's a major Tolkien symbol. This tree with these deep roots, right? So this tree, at the same time, it had a powerful elf hero pouring light into it in this epic battle, and at the same time it had a Balrog pouring all this hatred and fire into it, and all of this went deep into the roots, and the energy of the light and the hatred, the light and the love, the darkness and the hate, all went down together, and it impacted the stone in the mountain below it, and this is how Mithril was born. So we are quite literally shown the power that created Mithril in the Dwarven Mountains. But at the same time, we learn instantly this Mithril is both co-owned by the elves, the tree roots, and the dwarves, the ore under the mountain, right? And this is the point that shows us why the elves and the dwarves go to savage war, right? And this is a moment of narrative power. And in order to reach there, this is the lesson as a dungeon master. We must know, right, our own lore well, the backstories, right? In order to get this, you need to know the backstory of that elvish hero. You need to know the backstory of the Balrog, right? Backstories are incredibly valuable, and you should turn away from any dungeon master who ever gives you a single limitation on a backstory that you have brought to the table in good faith, right? No better way to know a bad dungeon master than to say, oh, I don't want your 5-page, 10-page, 15-page backstory. Get rid of them. They suck, right? Your backstory is the heart of Dungeons and Dragons, right? And the reality is, and this is the issue, if you're going to get there, if you're going to have a moment of narrative power, you have to respect lore, you have to build lore, you have to preserve lore. This happens through notes, this happens through work, this happens through collaboration, right? And you can have this moment of narrative power, right? Exactly the way the Lord of the Rings of Power have achieved. And frankly, I don't think House of the Dragon has achieved this season. Lord of the Rings is truly surpassing House of the Dragon. All that's my humble opinion. What is your path to moments of narrative power in your Dungeons & Dragons campaign? I'd love to hear. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.